Hello, everyone. My name is Justin Bartels. I am the principal trumpet of the Colorado Symphony Orchestra. I teach at the University of Colorado, and it's the first time I get to say this. I play Yamaha trumpets. And very, very proud of that. And I'll let everybody else introduce themselves. We are the Colorado Symphony trumpet section. And right now, we are in the middle of a concert week where we're playing a Comic-Con concert. And our biggest challenge is to figure out what costume we're all going to wear tonight. I wanted to wear my dictator costume from the movie, but I've been told that that's not Comic-Con. It's my favorite one to wear because I took all my old band medals and put them on the side. Because I mean, what are you going to do with them once you're out of college? I mean, it was great in high school, right? You know. I might wear my jacket.
Oh, that's all in your closet.
What?
It's all in your closet.
And also, you know, I don't feel comfortable with the lapel microphone here because I make a lot of comments. Some of them can be very bad. And especially with these two, the way they like to needle me, and all my students as well. So anyways, I'll let everyone else introduce themselves.
Hi, my name's Phil Hembree. I am the second and assistant principal trumpet in the Colorado Symphony. I also teach adjunct at the University of Northern Colorado up in Greeley. I guess a little bit of my background, my teachers were John Rommel, Marie Speziale, Barbara Butler, Charlie Geyer, and Mark Hughes. And so I've been around a little bit throughout different schools. It's been a real pleasure to play up here in Denver. I don't have to say this, but I also play Yamaha. But I don't have to say it. So, but I hope you enjoy the masterclass. Feel free if you have any questions at the end. Ask us anything you want, and hopefully we'll have time to have some people play up here. I'll hand it over to Patrick.
Okay. Does this even work?
I don't know.
Can everybody hear me? It's probably for this. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, hi, my name's Patrick Tillery. I'm the associate principal trumpet in the Colorado Symphony and have been for the last 26 years. So I'm the old guy in this section. Seen a lot in the trumpet section over the last 26 years. I used to teach at this school, believe it or not, years ago. I was when we had adjuncts over here. Now Mike is the full-time guy. Let's see, what else? I teach at home. I went to Ohio State, was the TA there. Also went to the University of Louisville. So I studied from Leon Rapier and Phil Collins were my main teachers. Also Richard Burkhardt at Ohio State. What else there is to know? I have a wife and 3 kids, and they're all in college, and it gets expensive. No, I don't know. So that's a little bit about my background. My job, what's interesting about my position is I get to play all the really great stuff that Justin doesn't want to. That's a joke. So, no, I do a lot of the concertos and some of the pops and things like that, but I play in the section, and then I bounce around wherever I'm needed. So that's a little bit about my job. So, anyway.
Yeah. There was something I did forget to mention. I also studied with Marie Speziale and John Rommel at Indiana University. Believe me, that had nothing to do with Phillip getting the job. Yeah, I didn't know. It was all blind and screened. There was no shenanigans. I did pronounce that incorrectly on purpose, so sorry. But I would like to mention a little bit about our section. So we do have, in some orchestras in the United States, there's probably most of the full-time professional orchestras are part of a group called ICSOM, the International Conference of Symphony Opera Musicians. And there are about 51 orchestras a part of that group, and some have 2 trumpets, some have 3, and some have 4. And there's also some pretty well-paying regional orchestra, Players Association orchestras that make a pretty decent wage as well. And what we do is, since we have 3 trumpet players, what happens when we have an extra person? I'm going to shout someone out here who's here with this week playing 4th trumpet, my friend Mark DeGote, who teaches trumpet at Auburn. He is playing 4th trumpet on the Comic-Con show because guess what? You can't do 4 trumpet shows without 4 trumpet players. So every week we usually have someone come in. I knew NTC was this week. We went to school at Indiana. We have very solid ties in Indiana. Patrick almost went to school at Indiana. He was very close by. That didn't mean he actually almost attended. I'm just saying we all studied in the same region of the United States, which I always think is the funniest thing. Oh, here we go.
But I did take lessons from Marie Speziale.
Yes.
So
yes.
there you go. And I don't play Yamaha, so.
Yeah. but we love him the same. It's totally fine. We get along very well in the Colorado Symphony Orchestra, almost too well, to the point where we get in trouble with our personnel manager quite often. Not as much as our low brass section does. But, you know, what are you going to do when you have a concert where the strings are rehearsing for an hour and you're sitting there looking at 127 measures of rest like we did on the, was it the Brahms? Oh, yes. We're going to get also in trouble for using our cell phones. Sorry to out these things, but that actually happens in professional orchestras, and the no cell phone policy has been enforced at the Colorado Symphony now. And I'm sure somebody's watching it. I'm going to get a lot of trouble for that. So what we're going to do right now is, just so I stop talking and dig my hole even deeper, we're going to play a little bit. We've got several orchestra excerpts prepared. For the most part, Phillip and I have some stuff we want to do on Rotary trumpets and Beethoven's, and talk about general intonation things between first and second trumpet, because that's been a topic that has been brought up before in several of the master classes that I've done. We're going to start with the Bartók Concerto for Orchestra. And I'm really afraid on how this is going to go, because the 5-minute warm-up is something I don't like doing normally, but we're gonna do our best. So we're gonna start with the first movement, just play the opening chorale, and we'll see how it goes. I'm sure it'll be fine. It's really cold. So here we go. I'll just give 3 for nothing. 1, 2. Yeah, you get a lot of water in my horn. So anyways, we did that fairly straight in time. If you've played the excerpt before, you can add a little bit more inflection on the first beat. I wanted to do that way for a reason, because all of us have been in a different stage in our career. Right now, the amount of auditions that I have taken in the last 10 years, probably maybe average of 1 every 2, maybe 3 years, if there's a job opening that I really want to do, or if I'm just getting bored and want to go out there and see how things are going. I get a lot of my friends trying to convince me to come out and take an audition, and I say no all the time, but you know what? They're very persuasive. Justin, come in, we can at least hang and have a good time, you know, and that ends up happening. And so what happens when you get into the section round? What are you going to do? Well, you don't know exactly how much inflection someone's going to put on the opening part of Bartók. So if it's a principal trumpet audition, and I have the opportunity to do that, like I did, you know, when I auditioned at Colorado Symphony or other auditions that I'd won in the past, I try to keep it very middle of the road. Because how do you know what that section's been doing? For example, Patrick's been playing in the orchestra, you said, for 26 years. I've been here for 9, and the little embryo over here has been here for 2. Sorry,
That's a good one.
I know, sorry. But the thing is, when you haven't been someplace for a while and you don't know how an orchestra plays, you don't want to second guess anything. You go with what you know. You keep it middle of the road, you keep it standard, you keep it easy. So, it's safe. Now then, you let somebody else ask you to do it differently. But you know how it goes, because you know you can go dee, 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 or you can inflect it. There's several recordings you can hear that you hear everybody does something slightly different. So I guess what I'm getting at is, I'm not trying to say play it safe, but in a way I am. And so keeping it in tempo, in time, good pitch, good rhythm is the safest bet.
Just to tag a little bit on here, he's talking about a lot about principal auditionings, which is great, but if you notice, we're outnumbering the principal here. And so when you have a second trumpet or a third trumpet audition, which come out a little bit more often than, actually a little less often, sorry, than principal trumpet auditions, but they're really good to take. They're fun jobs. But the way I want to play when I'm approaching this is I want to just have a big, full sound, but also, I don't know if you noticed, and they might have not even noticed, I actually played softer at the very beginning to see what the balance was, and then I kicked it up into it. That's something about knowing where your section sits and where your section stands. I want to hear, especially playing in the middle, I want to hear both these people play. And then I want to sit right in the center of it. And so when you're in a section round, if you have a section round with 3 people, which is unusual, usually you just have 2. first and second. But if you do have a third trumpet, make sure that you can hear both parts, and that if they're lining up, your job's going to be really easy to sit in the middle of it. But once again, like Justin was saying, play safe. Don't try anything weird as a second trumpet or a third trumpet. Just kind of play normal and then catch on very quickly to what the principal's doing. That's my job, is listening this direction and then secondarily listening this direction.
Yeah, I can say something. Yeah, I think that's one thing that's really important, is that you're always listening. If you're in the section, if you're playing second, third, or fourth, you always want to listen to the guy who's getting paid the big bucks to sit in the hot seat. So you want to match whatever he's doing, especially in terms of pitch and articulation and style. Like I said earlier, I've been here in the CSO a long time, and we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I've sat under half a dozen principals in that seat, and every one of them had a different approach. So once, Justin's been here a while now, we can kind of anticipate where he's going to put the pitch, where he's going to put, this phrase, where is he going to put the high G? Is it going to go high? Justin's really good about pitch, so that makes it easy. But when you're sitting in the section, your main job is to follow whatever the principal does and make him or her sound good. That's your job, is to match them in any way you can and blend and make them sound really good. So it doesn't take much.
Yeah, we'll do the fugue too. But one thing that I was thinking about what I was going to say before, because this is the first time we've ever done a master class with all three of us together, and we probably each do a minimum of 5 a year someplace, whether it's talking to ourselves in a mirror sometimes. That's a good practice. What do you want to make sure you look like you know what you're doing when you're presenting. But one thing I found really funny is, I've heard this when I was in school all the time. The principal trumpet player is always right, and you adjust to the principal trumpet player. That is hogwash. I have to move all the time, and if I don't, it's not like the rest of my section's not playing with me or trying to play with me. The assumption is that if it's not in tune and you're playing a C major chord and I've got a major third and I'm playing an E, and I don't do anything fun with that E, you know what I'm talking about, right? I know that's a major third, so I need to bring that E lower. But what if a principal trumpet player is riding high on the E and it's the major third of the chord? There's a responsibility when you sit playing first trumpet part or second or third to know where you sit in that major chord, or if it's a minor chord, where that pitch is supposed to go. You're going to hear it, yes. Most of the time your ear's going to gravitate to that. But let's say that you've really honed in your skills and you know where that is. And when Phillip and I play Beethoven, that's really apparent.
This actually happened in my audition, by the way, for this job.
Yep.
You remember?
Yeah.
I was playing 14 cents low on an E, and the music director thought I was playing flat. But it's a good assumption, because it was flat.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to say anything.
But
Our former music director is a very dear friend of mine, and he's a pianist. And so,
equal temperament.
Equal temperament, and it's understood. And I said, well, actually, it's good, because I don't advocate using a tuner in an audition. That you're starting to nitpick people, and everybody knows how uncomfortable playing under the gun is in a professional situation. I mean, you've got a lot riding on it, and you're trying to calm yourself down, and you're only there for the 5-10 minutes that you're there. It's like you're shut in a room. This is fun, because we could just do it over. We have an hour to get it right. But
it won't take that long.
No, it won't. No, but well, actually, it's supposed to go an hour and a half. Okay. Yeah, it could take that long. But anyways, so I want to make sure that with Phil's audition, I thought it was very impressive that he was playing his E's 14 cents low on a major third on a Beethoven symphony. And so when we did the section round, of course it sounded in tune, because it was. It was easy. So hence he's playing second trumpet in the Colorado Symphony. So now the next section we're going to play here is, I want to bring, this is the fugue section from Bartók Concerto for Orchestra. I'm going to talk about it in a sense from all different parts. And I don't know how the execution is going to go, because it's really, you got a lot of things to think about. But if you look at Bartók Concerto for Orchestra, what you'll see is there's a lot of these accent notes, and the basic phrase is bum, bum, ba 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 bee, ba bum, beam, ba ba. That's the theme. So it trades off between the trumpet parts. If you look at each part, whenever you come in with the theme, whether you're playing the answer to the theme or whether you're playing the direct notes, you'll see carrot top accents with a quarter and then a dotted quarter because it's in 3/8. Bum, bee. So I don't want, even though there's an eighth note rest, I don't want that note to be too short, but I also don't want it to be bum, bee, ba 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 bee, ba ba. So it's more like you want that note to ring. So both of these parts are on standard trumpet auditions, and you might see the third trumpet part come in on an excerpt on a section round. But I've seen both the first and second trumpet parts in the time when I was auditioning for orchestras back when I was in school. It was like the month of June, July, and August was just flying a plane and trying to get a job. And it was real intense. And what you want that first note to be, you don't want it to be, it has to have an accent, but you want it to ring. So you want to create the idea of length, but you don't want it to be super long. So just think of the note ringing. Bum, bee, ba 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 bee, ba ba. But we all have it. So we all want to bring it out. Then it takes the rhythm and gets even smaller. It truncates it down to eighth notes. And it goes ba-bee, 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 and it passes on. So another word of caution, even though it's only marked forte, you can play pretty big, but then once you get to about, if you're looking at your parts, about once you get to 380, you want to dial the volume back a little bit there at 380, and then crescendo on through. So you don't want to be super intense all the time. You want to leave a little bit of room to let everything settle because you're playing with the whole orchestra. You don't want to get in the way. The whole brass section has this. And then everyone ends up on this gigantic unison A flat, which really has no time. And we'll all just know when to hit when to go from A flat to A. So here we go. Phil starts it out, and then it's for second and third, and then I come in. And so we'll see if we can execute it as well as we can here. Are we starting at 328?
Do I pick up 329?
328, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So something you'll notice when you're playing this in an audition or playing in a section, if you're listening to my dynamic level, it starts off really, really loud. And then as soon as the first trumpet comes in, I drop about half dynamic immediately. So that when you're playing the first excerpt, example. And so you pull the dynamics, maybe not that much in an actual section, but it's close.
I should have done that on my second trumpet auditions. Maybe that's why I'm not playing in second trumpet.
Basically, it shows that you know what these guys have. And what you want to do in an audition setting in a section playing is say, I know the part, I know it backwards and forward, I know who's coming in, when, and what they have. And that's part of the reason you do it.
Yeah. Just add one thing here real quick. And Phil just touched on that. And it really is important when you do take an audition, don't just practice out of the excerpt books. Get the whole part, get good recordings, and learn the entire piece. Too many times, you've been in an audition, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, that wasn't in the Bartók book, So make sure you learn the entire piece when you're going to an audition. You don't want to get caught surprised. So.
Yes. So the reason we picked Bartók Concerto for Orchestra to start is because there are multiple excerpts in there that would be asked at an audition. You're going to see the opening. You might see the fugue section we just played. You will see, most likely on everything, the second movement, the game of pairs, which is a duet between first and second trumpet that's in seconds. And then I've often been surprised why you wouldn't see the third movement. The first trumpet part has a big solo in the third movement. That's one of the reasons that Patrick brings that up. What if you saw that on sight reading? But fourth movement, not so much. But the last movement, we all know that there's 201 to 256, which is a big trumpet call. And then the ending, which starts around 508 to the end, really showcases a lot, especially the fact that both first and second trumpet have high Cs together. So that can be a real devastatingly bad situation if the second trumpet player doesn't have the ability to play in the high range. That's another misconception.
I was about to say that. Make sure you can play high. I play high Cs and high Ds on a regular basis here on this instrument, C trumpet.
I think it's funny when you talk to some of the horn players. I'm a high horn player, I'm a low horn player. You know, I remember there was a string of bass trombone auditions for a friend of mine I knew I had two friends. I will not mention the second person's name. I will mention the first one is George Curran. He plays in the New York Phil, so it's easy to mention that one. I thought he was incredible on the bass trombone. And what I liked about, before he won Rochester and Atlanta within a week apart, George did something that was really impressive to me. I knew a lot of friends that had picked the instrument, the bass trombone player, to be a bass trombone player for one reason, because they thought it required low trombone playing and they couldn't play high. Well, if you've ever listened to a bass trombone audition and you listen to Harry Janos, you listen to Fountains, these excerpts are not exactly low. They get up there. They get up there and they're really high. So the whole thing is, well, I can't play high, so I'm going to go and audition for only second trumpet jobs. Okay, well, how are you going to play Bartók? And I can't play low, so I feel like I can play high, so I'm going to be a principal trumpet player. Okay, well, how are you going to play Dvorak 8? Sorry, yeah, it is Dvorak 8. I was thinking 9 for a second, but yeah. So the thing is, be versatile, work on your fundamentals, don't let anything slide, and believe me, you basically need to play from pedal F on your horn, all the way up to basically a D concert to E flat concert on a C trumpet, if you really want to be versatile and comfortable. Now that doesn't mean you can't achieve success other ways. I believe that you can use your E flat trumpet to your advantage.
But you still have the range on the E flat trumpet.
Yes.
It does not increase your range. That's what makes it exceptional as well.
There's ways to get where you want to get, but we can talk about that a little later. There's I used my E flat trumpet to help me with range, because believe me, when you're playing a smaller instrument, just playing those notes and then going back and forth between the E flat trumpet and the C trumpet, if they're the same pitches, if they're the same articulation, after a while you realize that, oh my gosh, I can play the same notes on my C trumpet. You know, we all do things mentally to keep us from being successful, but there's ways to achieve success. And by doing something and repeating that process, our brains will get to that point. So we'll talk about a little bit more about just general concepts later. Let's go to the game of pairs, second movement. A couple things here. One thing that I always tell my students when they're playing, yeah, we'll do the chorale through with the chorale. If you look at this excerpt, it has really long notes, really short notes. Really pay attention to make a difference between the super long dash quarter notes and the short staccato. Remember, staccato means separate. Playing it too pecky and too short without any tone is also not going to be acceptable. The one thing that's really hard here is you'll hear intonation is probably not going to be as much of a problem here, because when you're hearing something in seconds, you know, the committee's not going to be, if they're listening to a section round, they're not going to be, oh my God, those guys are really out of tune playing those seconds. It's grating anyway. But what do you think is going to be the most important part here? Oh, you know, yeah.
It's the balance, really, in the muted section. And at 123, when we go to the chorale, then it is intonation. But in the muted section, it's going to be balance, style, and time, because I have to follow exactly what he does. on the fly, even if I've never played it before. I think the first time we played this was actually in the rehearsal for Bartók. We just did this this year. And first time we played this together was actually in the rehearsal, and it went fine. It's because my job is listen to him, his job is listen to me, and so we're trying to find exactly every nuance.
Well, I mean, we have played it before at other times.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, but
in
first,
actual
yeah.
performance.
Yeah.
But so really, time is really important. You don't think it is. It really is, because he can feel if I'm off time, and I can feel immediately if he's off time, and then I adjust immediately, he adjusts immediately. But it makes it uncomfortable. So you want to be as steady as possible, and I actually want to try to play slightly softer, but not soft enough that I'm not heard. That's the thing about being a second trumpet. You always want his voice to speak out, but you have to add cushion. But this is not one of those times. This is one of those times you kind of take the back seat and just add the extra color in there.
And we're going to over-exaggerate things, but not play to the point of so short that we lose tone. So we'll start here at 90. Yep. And what I want you guys to do when you're listening to this, when you're counting this, really get an idea of what's going on in the orchestra. It's a violin pizzicato that leads into this. Ba-ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-ba-ba-bum, da-da-da-da-da-da-bee-bum. Really sets up the time of what you're going to be doing with your 16th notes coming forward. Okay? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. About that. I went the wrong way on the E flat. Yeah, sorry. Years ago, I was working on this when I was at school in Indiana, and I went through every note with the chords and went what direction was going to be the tendency on those notes, and I just went the wrong way on purpose. So I had to go really and he did match me. I was like, the first one needed to be lowered, and the second one needed to be raised. And I raised the first one and lowered the second one. Oops. So sorry about that, Philip. Again, that good point about I just said, you should listen to the first trumpet player. Maybe I should not have adjusted myself. Okay, so the next section. Now, first trumpet part, let's do it twice. I think that if possibly I may have, that's not a stable area. I have an E-flat trumpet part that I have written out for the Bartók. And I tend to, if you're playing the first trumpet part to Bartók in an audition situation, E-flat trumpet is a good way to go for the first trumpet part when the two trumpets trade off. I did a paper in school, and I don't know if I should quote it because I got a C on the paper. I thought it was a really good paper. But when you go to Indiana, they just make your life miserable with the academics. And it's basically like the call from Also Sprach Zarathustra. Come on, we're all trumpet players. C student means job, right? So that's horrible. I know, Marie's probably listening to it right now, rolling her eyes. I'm trying to find Bartók here, I'm sorry. So I'm going to play this. When I've sat in the orchestra, I used to think, okay, I have the ability to play this on C trumpet, so I'll go ahead and do it, It's also, we're all trumpet players, so we want to play higher, faster, louder, right, So I realized you don't have to be a hero when you play principal trumpet. You want to get the job done as efficiently and with the best possible sound and style that you possibly can. So in this instance, I have generally used E-flat trumpet in the orchestra. And that being said, I do it because it still sounds good, it carries well in the hall, and it's clean. However, last time we did it, on Friday and Saturday I used E-flat trumpet, and Sunday I used C trumpet on the fly to scare Phillip as much as possible. And but anybody that knows me, I like to do things like that because it makes life interesting and much more fun. So since we're in a masterclass situation and we don't have the rest of the orchestra here to change our ideas of intonation, I'm not saying that that happens, but when you've got 80 other players with you, it's going to make, that's why E-flat trumpet's a preferable choice during the concert, because right now we only have 3 variables here. And then, if anybody drops a pen or their phone in the audience, it's probably not going to mess us up too much. But what happens when you're in a concert and down da 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 down da 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 down da 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 da, and you're like, wait a minute, we get to set the time, not the rest of the variables around us. So you don't want variables around you to ruin your experience. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it's okay. So here I'm going to do it on C trumpet once. Oh God, it's going to hurt. Yeah, 201's great. I'm not going to take away your moment, man. Yeah. And so let's do it once more on E flat. We'll see if there's much of a difference there, but I think it'd be preferable to do it on C trumpet. But believe me, when we're in a concert situation, it's a whole lot more difficult than here because of the variables.
Yeah, while you do that.
Oh, go ahead.
So this is a second trumpet excerpt, right? And a first trumpet excerpt. And I can tell you one thing that's going to get you eliminated faster than anything. And it's sixth excerpt, and it's rushing the eighth notes. So everybody goes da 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 da. And so make sure you think da 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 da, and really crescendo into that. Show phrasing. That's one of the things in auditions. Everybody says, be clean, be in tune, have a good sound, all that stuff. But what's really important, especially as you get further along in the process, semifinals, finals, is to show musicality. But this always assumes that you can actually play in time, play in tune, and play with a good sound. It's like, actually, Mark Hughes, I'm going to give him props for this one. It's like you're sitting on a 3-legged stool, and you have tone, pitch, and time. And so what happens if you shorten one of those legs, you fall over. And so those have to be perfect. And then on top of that, you're a musician, and you sit there. And that's how you win a job, is you have everything. You take care of your bases, and then you sit your musician self on top of it, and you play really gorgeously, really musically, and you're going to be fine. And this applies in the job as well as winning a job.
And I'm going to throw a shout out to one of my friends that plays second trumpet in a pretty big orchestra. Told me one thing when we played this together. If you look at 221, not 221, sorry, 231. What do you have, Phillip, at 231?
D flat.
This is after the where I have da 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 B. So you have a D flat. So D flat, and what note do I have?
You have enough.
Mm-hmm.
So D flat, I actually play my D flat sharp
Well,
to facilitate.
yeah, but I also play it low to help out with the major third. Most first trumpet players are not going to bring that F down. But I'm going to tell you, if you're in an audition and you're playing in the section round and you just pop it out just a little bit, you might find that you have a little bit of an advantage, even on one note, because that chord's really going to pop. So just letting you know, that's a major third. That's one of those instances where he's, yes, as Philip's trying to compensate, but it's never been a problem, and there's a reason it's never been a problem, because we're both aware of what the other person has. All right, one more time. This is E flat trumpet.
It's a C trumpet.
Thanks for that. So, not as fun, but it gets the job done and really much easier to play. So, I don't know. Does anybody have I don't know what the audience perspective is. Anybody have an observation of the difference between the two? Anybody want to comment? Of course, I know C is the preferable one.
It sounds better up here for me.
It sounds better, yeah, of course.
It blends better with me.
But I'm saying it's also safety first. Was it a huge difference in though? I mean, like, completely like, oh my gosh, if Justin wouldn't have played a C trumpet, I would never have come back to see the Colorado Symphony play again? Okay, that's...
Discretion better part of valor.
I guess I'm going to be... Yeah, discretion is the better part of valor. However, last time, I think I'm going to keep playing it on C. It's much more fun, but just makes my life a lot harder and scarier. So let's go ahead and do the ending.
Yeah,
So this... Oh, sorry? Oh, yeah. So, and we're going to hammer out some two trumpet stuff really fast, so...
Where do you want to start on this?
Let's start at 508. So
With mute or without mute?
with mute. So mute of choice for me, I use a trump core wood mute. It's really easy for me because I feel like my mute, it has a pretty good intonation. But I also have a pitch finder on my horn to let me adjust my mutes on the fly, and it really helps. But don't use it too much, because the problem with the pitch finder is now if you have one on here, you think every major third needs to be like out this far. There's nothing worse than a low major third. Yes. What else were we gonna do? So I'm gonna ask Phil to do one thing for me. Can you bring the C up just a little bit more?
I'll play it
Okay. So we'll do right at 556.
Right.
Although even the right on 556.
You want me to bring it?
Oh no, I felt I came down a little bit. It's fine. 1, 2. Except we got to bring the A flat, yeah. All good. But see, I felt like I was coming down a little bit on the C, not because I wanted the C to be down compared to the A flat. I wanted the wider gap to be done on the A flat, which I should have explained that before, but I like hearing that, believe it or not, high C on a C trumpet, we would think, because it's a really high note, is a flat note. Sharp note. It's actually a flat note. So I don't mind letting my C's get up there a little bit, but I didn't feel like
Yeah, this
that.
one went to flat horn.
Yeah, I mean, it's all
Really
about the
flat.
combination you do. Put it on this end that goes through here, and but it's all about trumpet's all about a bunch of trade-offs. You know, you're never going to find the perfect mouthpiece, perfect horn, although we're getting close. Technology keeps getting better and better and better. But last week was the first time I experimented trying different mouthpieces in the last like 13 years. And there's such minuscule small differences. I still ended up back on this mouthpiece because no matter what, if I got a little bit better, slightly better sound, slightly better body to the note, yeah, I know sound's only is supposed to be like the thing, but this has still got a pretty decent sound, and I can play comfortably in all registers with this. So that's one of the reasons. Yeah, of course we are. We're trumpet players. We go with home base. So what Phil and I are going to do now, we're going to do a little bit of rotary stuff, first and second trumpet things for a few, and then Patrick will come back and play with us. Actually, since we got our pistons, you want to do Scheherazade first? Okay. So let's talk about Scheherazade here. Scheherazade's about one thing and one thing only: articulation. So no matter how slow, if anybody ever tells you you're playing it too fast, that's dictated by the person on the podium. And I have played it so fast that your head would spin. It's horrible. So we're going to keep it a nice middle of the road tempo. Da-da-da-ga-dum, da-da-da-ga-dum, da-da-da-ga-dum. I want those accents to have a C, to have a little bit more length, weight to them, and also don't think about playing it too short because I want to hear pitch. It's still going to sound crisp and clear, but not too short. So I'm going to do the pickup to C. Okay?
Are we going through D?
Yes. Actually, let's go all the way to E.
Okay.
Okay. That a little bit, but you get the idea. The tempo does change. All right, so basically just a little bit of weight at C. I'm trying not to be too pecky and short. No. You want a little bit of ring. You want everything to go into the hall. It shows crisp, clear articulation. Now, let's do 3 before Q. So here, Philip's going to have the first note, and it's just dum da dum. 6 before Q. Sorry. You get what I'm saying. So again, same thing here. We're going to find a place of departure here to drive through these 16th notes. And don't think of the first note as being too short. It's going to ring. We want the pitch to ring. We want to hear the sound in the hall. Okay? Bum ba dum. Here we go. I'll give you 3 for nothing. 1, 2. Cool. So we are playing this this is our next subscription Masterworks. So we've been practicing. So
You've been practicing it?
I know. I'm just trying to make it sound better than it is. Like we've been doing our due diligence playing the trumpet when really we just, come. Yeah. T to U. That's just a first trumpet thing. What I want to talk about here is you can phrase this to be musical. It doesn't just have to be no. You can drive through these phrases in a nice lyrical way what's going to happen is we're going to try to keep a steady tempo. But if you're playing this in an orchestra, what's going to happen is and you're like, what am I supposed to do? So you figure it out, you listen to the snare drum, you try to do the best you can. But guess what? You don't get to take the orchestra with you and blame the tempo variance on somebody trying to be too expressive and artistic. You have to play in good time. So I'm going to do my very best. And you're going to hear what I do as I change to the phrase on this one. So you can get away with actually playing a phrase on something that's really long. And it's actually going to sound like, oh, well, I'm playing with some direction. It's okay to do that because you're playing in the background to bum bum be da da dum bum be da dum bum dum. And you're going to be playing so fast when you go back and listen to the recording, you're going to think you were triple tonguing it, which you weren't. It's weird how duple and triple, if they're the same patterns, really do work out that way. So you can actually get away with like Alvarado da Grazioso like that if you think about it in a more whatever. We'll get into that later. Okay, so that's Scheherazade. Does anybody have any questions before we go on to some of the Rotary Beethoven stuff? Yeah, that'd be good. So, yeah, let's do academic first. Well, Patrick, yeah. I didn't know if he had his horn out.
Yeah, it does.
Sweet.
So one word about rotary trumpets. How many of you, by show of hands, have actually played on a rotary trumpet? Good. Notice anything about the pitch? It's reverse of a C trumpet piston, by the way. So your Ds on most of these are going to be high, actually, and your Es are going to be high as well, at least on this one. But also rotary trumpets are a lot of different things that happen, different makers, different models. They're actually playing on the same kind of horn I'm playing on a Schagel. I don't have to say that. But so when you're playing rotary trumpet, also the resistance is different.
Mention the brand name of what?
Yeah. So resistance, if you notice, you're blowing directly into the first valve, right? So on a piston C trumpet, you have a good, probably 6 or 7 inches before that happens, in addition to this. So the resistance is higher. Here, you're blowing directly into a valve. So you have to actually make sure your airstream is going straight through consistently and not backing off. So if you want to get really good at piston, start playing rotary trumpet. It'll show you everything. It's the same thing. Play piccolo trumpet. It'll tell you everything you're doing wrong on C trumpet or a B flat trumpet. The smaller the horn and the different horns are good for diagnostic tools. But rotary trumpet, the biggest thing is try to get the different sound, but use the trumpet to get the sound, not manufacture it yourself. It will sound different just on its own.
And one bit of caution, I sometimes like to over vibrato things. Don't use vibrato on a rotary trumpet. It's really not stylistically appropriate. It sounds weird. Just sounds incredibly weird because you're looking for this German sound. I had a master class when I used to be in the New World Symphony back about 15 years ago, 10 years ago, sorry, 12, whatever. And had a master class when we're talking about Mahler 5 and the big chorale, big, huge, wild moment in like number 7 in Mahler 5. And there was a coach. He had played in the the London Symphony at one point in his career and the Vienna Philharmonic. And he said the London Symphony guys would play with a lot of vibrato. Of course, they'd play it on piston, and they'd go crazy with the vibrato. But the German guys wouldn't play, with any vibrato. So, we're sitting there playing German music or Austrian music on a Austrian, Northern Italian, the cultural where it's accepted to play. You want to play in the style of the music that you're about to play. So that's just a little bit of food for thought there. I'm very, very big into different style. Yeah, I know. I don't know how to spell Brahms. So it's okay to add vibrato, crazy vibrato on a Russian piece. I played at NTC and somebody came up to me, was talking about my Artunian, was talking about how the way I sounded. I'm like, I don't sound like that on when I'm normally playing my trumpet. I'm trying to play like Doc Schitzer. I'm trying to play the Artunian in an Armenian style. I don't want to just get up there and go dum da dum dum. Yeah, it's getting a little dirty. There's a purpose for that, you know. So be very cautious and careful, and learn style. Be a musician is a good way to put it. Sorry, I'm still not here. Okay, we're here. Bizet was after Brahms. I know. Thank you. All right, here we go. So this is a great excerpt to play with your friends because it's in the key of C. And so what note needs to be in tune in the tuner? C. So it's like the perfect drone exercise. And we might not get our C's together, but we're going to try. Here we go.
We'll find out. I haven't played this one.
My horn's cold too,
Yep.
but no excuses, right? Here we go. I'll do 1, 2, 1. 1, 2. Sorry, I had to play those long. I got accused of playing those too short one time in an audition. I had to play them long. Sorry. Oh yeah. Okay, so you get what we're. So I'm trying to bring my thirds down. He's trying to bring his fifths up. We're all trying to play in the key that we're playing in because guess what? This is like older period music, which is like 1800s, 1900s, where the trumpet really stuck around more the roots and the thirds and the fifths, and so. That's what is great about playing rotary trumpet. If you can really dial in pitch on a rotary trumpet, I don't think it's a bad thing to use a tuner for a while on a rotary trumpet, a clip-on bell tuner. Just don't use it in the concert. And play in the chord and try to get a grasp of when you're playing your rotary trumpet versus your piston trumpet to know what home bass feels like, to know what a C always feels like. Because we just picked up these horns. We hadn't played in about a month since we did Brahms. Was it Brahms 3 last time?
Or it might have been 3.
Yeah. We've done both Brahms 1 and 3 or 4. Yeah, believe me, they all run together. 158 concerts a year. They all start to run together. We're gonna go and we're gonna play. Let's do Beethoven 5. Okay. Oh, it's okay. I'm just saying it's funny. Yeah.
Life of a third trumpet player.
See, Patrick would normally play assistant, but we're not going to need him on this section. On a Beethoven 5, 7, and 9, I usually would use Patrick for assistant because those are they get really intense after a while. They're on your face a lot. 5 is doable without an assistant. 7, I really like to use in the last movement. So we're going to start with the second movement. Now, what you'll notice in the second movement is you have dots over one section. It's more separate, and it says sempre, fortissimo. And we also have sforzandos. Now, I want to talk about the difference between sforzandos and fortissimos or sustained notes in Beethoven. Sforzando notes are ones that you hit and you come back on in Beethoven, and fortissimos and fortes are ones that are more sustained. Now, within reason, we're trying to play still in this style. However, we start with fortissimo. It's not this. It's this. Because that's where the sforzando is. That G has the sforzando. It doesn't want you to go intense. So really pay attention. In Beethoven symphonies, when you see a dynamic, that's usually much more sustained unless the conductor tells you not to, because that will happen too. But Stylistic wise, you never want to be too harsh on a Beethoven symphony, and think about Beethoven where he was in his life. If you're playing Beethoven 1 and you see a big sforzando, probably not as much angst as when he was deaf, couldn't hear anything, and pounding out the piano in 9. So you can actually judge how his personal life was affecting his music and how you play it. So if you're playing Beethoven 9 and there's a huge sforzando moment, it's really loud, there's probably a reason for it, because he wanted to hear it. So think about it, that has an impact too. So 5, not as aggressive as 9, and actually 8's pretty chill though. Okay, so let's go ahead and play right at A. 1, 2. Cool. So, I mean, we had a little bit of, but it was, for the most part, it was okay.
Yeah, I just need to breathe down there.
Yeah, I should have talked about that a little bit more. But the great thing about Beethoven 5 is that we get to do it 2 more times. We're not going to do that now. So, all right. So now let's do the last movement. A little bit. What Philip's going to do. You want to play it for us once?
Just the excerpt?
Yes.
All right, sure.
Good. So,
Are you going for a little register?
yes.
Yeah. So this is a common second trumpet excerpt. If you've ever taken a second trumpet audition, this will be on the audition. And the reason is they want to see if you can play light in the low register. No one cares if you can play low, by the way. No one cares if you can play high. They care that you can play the style and play it beautifully in the register that you're playing in. The trick to here, for me, is to actually not perceive it as being as low as it is. Yeah, it's a low G. Yeah, it's on rotary. It's on very stuffy equipment. But if you play it light, that's going to help a lot, because especially what he's playing is a good 10th, 11th above what I'm doing, maybe even higher. It's a good octave plus, what, fifth?
Which also calls into
a
question
lot.
of whether when he wrote this, whether it was really in the right octave.
Yeah, personally, I don't think it is,
Well,
because the timpani takes care of this
We're,
part.
we're not going to be able to change that anytime soon.
No, but generally, you want to make it sound as light as possible. You'll hear when we play. I'm not, because a lot of people will do this. You're going to hear this a lot. You're going to hear. And it's like, that's great low register playing. You know, you want to hear. Yeah, low apps and stuff. Sorry. I'm not used to microphones. But when you're playing down the low register, you want to think light and easy. It's not hard. It really is much, much, much easier than you think it is.
I've taken a lot of second trumpet auditions and have done very well at them and almost won some jobs in some really big orchestras. I am not a second trumpet player. So my one bit of advice, I have to teach students that are taking second trumpet auditions. And I'll give you one little bit of advice. Every time they want to sit there and they want to play that second trumpet part, super, super loud and super low. Phillip can do it.
Oh, yeah.
Phillip's low register is way better than mine. But there's ways that I've been able to achieve more success, I'm not saying more success than you, I'm saying at the audition process, than other players, because I took an approach to playing these second trumpet excerpts just like Phil is describing, because it's not hard to play.
Too, right?
Yeah. Maybe I can't. I mean, you just don't want to go overboard. We had a second trumpet audition with 13 candidates in the semifinal round, and we had the finalists were the only ones that could play the second trumpet excerpts. Everyone could play pictures. most people could play Petrushka, most could play Mahler 5. But what they couldn't do is they couldn't play the low register notes because everyone wanted to play the same second trumpet excerpts just as loud as they play Mahler 5 in the big, huge sections. It's like, no, that's not what you want. There was the other finalist was a student of mine, and we were talking about the approach of what we're going to look for on the other side of the screen before the audition. And I said to him, look, I know that low register playing is not your cup of tea, but what you need to do is you need to make sure you can play the notes comfortably, crisply, and in tune. And that's all you really got to do. And what's funny about it is I was surprised because I thought this person's much more stronger as a lead trumpet player, first trumpet player, and he made it all the way and almost won the job. Yes, and won a gig within a month, and yeah, Marine Band. And it's like, it's really cool to see that happen where somebody takes your advice and applies it, but anyone can do, you just, playing the trumpet and doing it well, it's just, you want to be smart. If you're having trouble playing low register stuff, back off a little bit. The worst thing they can do, what's the worst thing they can do, Philip?
Spread.
No, what's the worst thing?
Loud.
What's the worst thing the committee could ask you to do if you played soft?
Oh, play louder.
Okay.
And they probably won't do that.
And who wants to hear a louder trumpet?
Not me. That's the thing. Yeah, I don't want to hear. Yeah, I mean, yeah. But it's one of those things that, raise a hand here. Who struggles with the low register? Who struggles with the low register here? Great. Easy exercise. Then walk it down. Do you see much movement in my face when I'm playing that? No, there's a reason for that. I'm not advocating a no pivot system or anything. I'm just advocating that a lot of people will get really weird in the low register and think, oh my gosh, it's so low, I can't do this. If you keep your lips compact and blow slower air and more air, it's going to work. If you overblow and you push really hard, yeah, you might get the note out, but you're going to have what's happening to Justin, hearing people, not to Justin, but like in the audition, hearing this, is people overblowing the low register. Same, the upper register requires less air in the upper register, so don't overblow the upper register. It's just one of those things that when you learn how the trumpet really works, life gets easier. And so for the low register issues, like my job is low register, and then I have to play high C's and D's tonight because of me doing a Comic-Con show. And when you're doing that, you have to keep everything compact and in, and not spread. This is not the way to get low register. You don't, spread. Because if you spread, it's really hard to play down there. So. It's the same Amsher said. It's not much different. That's my spiel. I see a lot of people playing low register too incorrectly, and I'm trying to teach my students not to do that. And they're working. It's getting better. But so learn how to play the trumpet the same, top to bottom. This will help with excerpts and everything. Sorry, that's my soapbox. I'll get off now.
I like to talk, you know that. It's probably good for you to talk. Okay, so we're going to play the last movement to Beethoven 5. Now, we're going to make a little bit of, we're going to change up the time a little bit. It's okay. As long as you play in the correct style, you'll be fine. It doesn't always have to be super strict. We're not going to do anything crazy, you'll notice. All right, 1, 2. So we brought the, sorry, go ahead. Yeah. Sorry? Yeah, the opening, well, we still went, we were a little bit more stylized in the first half notes. But when we had the repeated notes, ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-ba, you know who's got the melody there during that section? Anyone? Violence. Now, How many times have we heard an orchestra concert where we hear this? Yes. 1, 2, beginning. 1, 2. It's fun for the trumpet players, right? But why? I mean, there's other stuff going on, you know? You got to come back there. So Phil did when he was demonstrating too. So know when you're supposed to play more and when you're supposed to play less. It's not on and off. So that's a good example of that in Beethoven 5 right there. We could. Anybody?
We're going to have people sit in the section.
Yeah, does anyone feel comfortable enough to come up and play some of these stuff with us?
That's okay. No, we'll keep playing.
We will definitely keep playing. How about Beethoven 9? Okay, there's the chorale from Beethoven 9. We could do the other section, but that's... So, everything on this section in Beethoven 9, the Ode to Joy, has a slur phrase marking over it. One thing that I would like to caution, there are dots over the slurs. Those are the notes that you articulate. It's pretty much that simple. And there's one sforzando, which we talked about before, and we'll bring that one out. Yeah. It's also only marked one forte. The moment is later when you get to have a lot more fun where you play these like skeleton notes when the choir sings the same note.
A note, who has seen the second trumpet excerpt before? Who has actually looked at the part? Anybody? No? Okay, good. When you look at this part and look at any second trumpet literature and classical literature, and I mean actual big C classical literature, not orchestral playing, you'll notice that the second trumpets, we don't actually play what's on the page, almost ever, because there's things that the natural trumpet simply could not do. And so you'll have this, there's a D above staff, like not above staff, but in the staff towards the end of this excerpt. And most second trumpet players will take that down an octave, simply because everything around it is in octaves. And that one note is not an octave simply because a Baroque trumpet can't do that. And so when you're playing second trumpet, also in auditions, I do this in auditions without even asking. I don't bother asking, hey, do you want that note down, do you want that note up? I make an executive decision saying the natural trumpet cannot do that. So go get a book. I'm sure there's a lot of books around here about natural trumpets. Go get a book. Get the range of the instrument. If you're preparing a second trumpet audition, figure out what it cannot play. And that will dictate, like Beethoven 5 is the same way, Beethoven 1, all the Beethovens, all the Brahms. You want to actually stay appropriate as we can to the style of the original instrument, which is a Baroque trumpet. And so you won't actually notice you don't know the piece that well, but I'm taking a lot of things down and up an octave as I choose, depending on what the trumpet could have done.
And to further expand on that, even if you didn't know, if you just look at the parts, you'll be able to tell if you have a lower octave of that note, and you don't see that if you have an upper octave of a note and you never see a lower octave of that note, that's probably going to be one you take down. So like if you have a low C and then a high E and you never have a lower E, it becomes much more self-explanatory. Yeah. However, you can mess that up. Yes. And Phil will know when the one time that you're supposed to take it up the octave, which is why I like him playing second trumpet, because he's very good at that. Yeah. All right. So D major from B. So what am I going to try to do with this? I'm going to try to lower my thirds when I play the first note. If I don't, it's going to sound real rough. All right. 1, 2, 1. Yeah, it hurts, but once you get the C, the excerpt's going to continue forward past the main Ode to Joy section. And some orchestras will have you play all the way to the end. You don't have to play loud anymore at that time. And Patrick, thank you very much. Because when he usually plays it, I have him play like one measure.
I'm always ready.
He's always ready. There's a lot more in the other parts of the piece. So I appreciate that very much. We have probably about 20 minutes or so left, a little bit less than that. Does anyone have any questions to ask? I'll repeat it. Legal advice for that? Okay. Now, the question was, we obviously get along pretty well. Do you have any advice when you don't get along pretty well?
Be a nice person.
Yeah, I mean, I get, it's so funny. I treat Patrick and Phillip much better than I would some of my other colleagues sometimes. But I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, it's a stressful job. Try to imagine. I was in the New World Symphony for a while. You guys, raise your hand if you've done a summer music festival. I'm sure most people have. Can you imagine what it's like that, to do that for 36 weeks in a row, living around everyone? And then it was really interesting. What did you say? Year after year. Well, it's not quite like that here, but it is a little bit. Our previous second trumpet player was in the orchestra for 39 seasons. And Manny, our principal trumpet player that retired in 2000, how long was Manny in the orchestra? 40 years. I could hope to play that long. I mean, you worry about all sorts of things going wrong. I mean, I got a cut on my lip right now because I every once in a while I get this like dry skin. And, for 20 years, I have a little bit of dry skin, so I peel it off. What do you think? Do you think that's a smart thing for me to do? No? Of course, it's like now I'm like, oh, it's bleeding a little bit. Well, why is that? Because don't touch it. I mean, I can't not. We're trumpet players. It's just like, it's something, it's not normal. It's like this dry piece of skin. It means nothing. It doesn't affect my playing at all. But right now, it feels like somebody took a knife and stuck me with it. Yes, sir?
I'll just interject something here. So you have to think, in the CSO, we have 80 players, okay? Some orchestras are obviously a lot bigger than that, 90, 100, 110. So in our orchestra, we have 80 people. We have 80 egos on the stage. Let's face it. I mean, to be in this business, you have to have a little bit of that to survive. You have to get through the audition process and get through tenure process, and week in, week out. You have to have a little bit of that drive, okay? So with that said, not everyone is going to agree with your phrasing. Not everyone's going to agree with your breathing, or not your articulation, your vom. Ultimately the conductor has the ultimate say on how to play a phrase, okay? But then it breaks down, the principal has the next say. If you're in the section, whether you like it or not, you need to follow the phrasing of the person who's leading the section. If you don't like it, I'm sorry, too bad. I mean, you're not paid to play, if you're sitting in the section, you match what the principal's doing, whether you like it or not. I mean, I've seen, okay, I don't want to get into storytelling here, and I'm not going to talk about my own section, but I've seen fist fights that were really funny.
This is broadcast all the internets.
No, I'm just saying, people can get really passionate about what they do, and we have to have that. We're musicians, we're artists, and we want to create our art, and it can be really tense. But you have to be able to work with your colleagues, and you have to be able to work with members of other sections. It's not just, I mean, I love my job. I mean, we all get along great. We all play well together. We all have a good time. We all play Clash of Clans together. Okay, so we all do these things, away from the instrument, where we get along. But you still have... Hey,
there's more than one member of our group in this audience right now.
And it's all trumpet players in the clan, too. That's what's funny. I'm such a nerd. But you've got 3 or 4 trombone players and a tuba on one side, and then you got another 5 or 6 horn players on the other side. So it's not just getting along musically with your colleagues in your own section, but you have to agree with other sections. And if you got a first violinist, well, the violins want to play it this way. Well, I don't want to play it that way. Well, who's got it first? Well, they do. Well, then too bad. So, you have to learn to get along, not just, personality-wise, but you've got to be able to agree musically, because it's something bigger than yourself. I mean, when you're playing a Brahms symphony and you're playing Brahms 2 and you get to the end and you're just filled with that, just pop, 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 hear the trombones come in and and you just want to stand up and scream at the end because it's so passionate what you're doing. The music is more important than your own personal gain, I guess I should say. You're trying to create with 79 other players on that stage something that is so beautiful that you can't put down on paper, okay? So the music is the most important thing. So if you've got, issues with such and such over there, or this guy sitting next to you, or over there, you have to set that aside and put the music first. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. I forgot about one thing that we all can play that we haven't really rehearsed that will be not difficult.
What book is that one?
It's in the other. It's in the this frosty book towards the end, the Chorale from Sibelius. I know. Of course, I know. But without any preparation or awareness that we're going to do, let's do the Chorale from Sibelius to the very ending. We'll do on piston, because we can wrap up just a slightly little early and let everybody have a little bit of a breather, and then we can take another question or two. But this one is cool. I wanted to do the end of Sibelius too. I saw it in the book. I forgot it was in here, because it's again another big trumpet moment in D major. You'll see a lot of big trumpet moments in D major or E flat. Certain keys have much more of a heroic sound to it. E flat, of course, is the heroic key, but it's like almost to the very end.
It's an F, right?
Yeah. Yes, it's an F, Philip. He knows this. I know. No, it's fine.
That's another thing we should talk about. Transposition. Who does it every day? Yeah. Good. So you should do it more. We often have to sight read transpositions all the time.
Like after Q.
Say if you have, a really high part in, say, Pokemon, which was a few weeks ago for me, and you want to play it on piccolo in A, and it's a B flat part. Transpose it if you don't have your B flat slide with you. If you have your B flat slide with you, okay, play it on B flat. But learn how to transpose on the fly and very quickly. So anything you get your hands on, really start transposing it, even if you're not going to be an orchestral player. Actually, freelancers and jazz guys have to use it way more than we do sometimes. So learn how to transpose. That's my thing on that.
E flat trumpet in C is actually not hard at all. It's like playing an A. And so, if you feel like you're getting really crushed by also sprach Zarathustra, the one like bom bom bee, bom bom bee, ba ba bum bee. You can that's a good safe thing if you feel like you can't do it on C trumpet. Again, trying to get the job done, play it on E flat a few times, then you'll find that after you've been playing on E flat, the C trumpet stuff seems a lot easier. So I don't really need to play the stuff by myself. Why don't we start? I guess I'll go ahead and start at Q. It might be later past 5. I may have made him. Again, the alphabetical aspect of. Try back again then. It might be before it then.
Technical difficulties.
There it is. That way?
No, I don't have it in here.
Okay. Well, never mind. All right. We'll pick a different one. Hold on a minute. Hold on. It might be after. I have it. Mine's after Saint-Saëns 3. And then 5. How about. Which one? Yeah. Okay. Let's do. Is the Gotterdammerung in here? Was that? Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I made these books, and apparently I didn't make them well enough. So let's go. You want to do the Debussy? Yeah. Okay. Let's do Fett. Because there's the loud section in that, too. All right. You threw one thing on the fly, and it's not even in the third trumpet book. I really messed that one up.
All right, so do the beginning of that.
Yeah. Here we go. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'll go 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. Sorry. I'll just give you 2 minutes. 1, 2. Hate that last note. So, couple things. First one, it's pretty soft. We got a nice, comfortable mute. But there's a part that says un peo reproche. What does that mean?
Ask them.
Does anyone know? A little closer. So you play the beginning really soft, and you can put the volume up just a little bit more. So make sure you do that. Slight dynamic change. And then it's got to sound a little bit uplifting at the last part. Articulation-wise, what's standard is all the triplets are tongued, and the da di ya da 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 di ya da. So you're only really going to slur a couple. There's been so many revisions of this. I think it's pretty standard to go ba ba ta 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 di dan dan da slur la da la dan. Is that right? No, I know. I had no choice. Da, di, ya, da, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the only slur.
So, and then the other one, and then this one right here. Di, ya, da, ya, di. So that's the only two places that really change. So, I mean, when you look, like Phillip's got,
I have a different edition.
it's very difficult to see from the distance, but maybe those closer can see. Phil's got the revised edition here,
Which is still incorrect.
and I've got the original manuscript here that's still incorrect. And then I have another version of I have the revised edition in this other folder, which is his. So I just, not everyone is aware of that. Last time we played it, I had to go tell one of my colleagues, hey, this is exactly what we want to do. So.
And also at auditions, this has been a point of contention. Ask the proctor to ask the committee to say, is this correct?
Oh, and also be prepared to do it the other way too.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of that.
Exactly. Well, one audition I took, I will not name which audition it was, a little poorly organized. But they said, yes, play the slurs. 10 minutes later, they came back and say, no, don't play the slurs. And so you have to be prepared to do it both ways. And it ended up, we actually did it the way that's supposed to be done, the correct way. But that's a problem when you have non-trumpet players on a committee as well, is they'll say, wait, why should we change it? And so you have to really be prepared to do it both ways. But the correct way is the way we did it. Tongue all the triplets, slur the da 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 dee ya da ya da. That's the correct way to do it. But other than that, be prepared to do it both ways.
Yep.
And ask.
Well, For the sake of this, first before we wrap up.
I'll do questions.
Yes, let's do it. Anybody have any questions, or any of us up here? Do we change our mouthpiece for rotary trumpet?
I don't.
I do.
They do.
Yeah. I have a German mouthpiece for my rotary trumpet with the same rim size as this one. I like to keep everything within the same area.
Yeah.
But yes, I do.
The mouthpiece I have is, I helped design it. It's a BC cup with a different shape, so it actually facilitates rotary playing, but it works really well on a Yamaha because of the smallness of the horn. It allows me to actually play through like a big horn. But I used to go back, this is actually my rotary mouthpiece before it was my piston mouthpiece, and I decided I like the sound on piston, and I just use it both. It's just easier for me.
Cool. Bueller?
Yes.
Have you had braces, and if you have, how have they affected your
I've had braces. So.
You've had
yeah,
braces?
I've had braces.
I need to get half.
Do you
my
have
teeth
braces right
pulled
now?
out from the
Yes, you
back.
do. So when I was in, I guess, 8th grade to 10th grade, I think, I had braces. And my biggest thing, I had a really good teacher at the time. That's actually the most important thing. Get a good teacher. I don't care who it is, just as long as they know how to do it. Because the problem is when you take the braces off. That's the problem. Braces on, what's going to happen is you're going to have a lack of flexibility. It's going to really lock your lips into place, right? You probably felt that already. And so the biggest thing, I rolled in to compensate for it, and it actually ended up causing problems down the road. But if you have a good teacher, and I did, she told me to actually pull out again after the braces are off. So I think endure the braces, work musically, work smart. If you feel yourself getting cut, I still have scars under here from braces. It hurts. So if you feel yourself getting cut, stop. Put the trumpet away. You don't need to play 24/7. And then pick it up when you're a little more healed. But then when you take it off, make sure you have someone to really mentor you through that. Because we got to basically relearn the trumpet playing. And it's going to feel really good after you get the braces off. But just endure the braces if you want to keep playing, and then just have them off. But no way to say it. It's really hard. I'm sorry. I had braces, and it's still rough.
Okay.
Yeah.
the section? Do you ever meet outside of like rehearsals and discuss things, or you just show up and things are?
Well, on Wednesdays we play trivia, and
Really?
no, we do occasionally play stuff.
Yeah,
But-
usually it's for our own purposes, not really for
Yeah, I
rehearsal.
mean, some sections do meet a lot, and we could do more, but we do like to keep our sanity.
Well, I mean, the rule goes you'll see these people sometimes more than you'll see your spouse. We're all married, and sometimes we're just at work that much.
That's impossible for me.
That's impossible for you because you work with your wife.
Yeah, my wife's in the orchestra.
She's a violinist in the orchestra, but both of ours are not. And so, like, between me running between UNC and here, we see these people a lot.
Yeah.
And so you want to be really good friends with them. So sometimes separation is good. And then we'll discuss, like, if I think he's not doing something the way I want him to do it, I'll casually ask, hey, can we do this like this? Or, hey, have you thought about doing that? So we usually do it in rehearsal, try to figure out these things. Because usually just don't play things once.
And Philip's done that 3, 2, maybe once.
Maybe once. I don't do it very often because usually you can just play. But yeah, we don't really meet that much. But
And sometimes, like, if I hear something, I mean, I usually just mess around with it. I don't have much problem with what's going on in the section.
no.
Yeah.
And generally, if you have the same concepts, you're not going to have to rehearse that
Yeah.
much. We can just, all three of us can sit down together,
I mean,
and we know what it's going to sound like.
I have to say that one thing that I've found, you get I've had teachers that say, like, my teacher told me this, we should breathe in this place. We do this all the time. Honestly, that kind of stuff just annoys the crap out of everybody else. But it's usually some student saying that their hotshot teacher that played in the Philharmonic Superiorsos forever, said that. And what really the truth is, once you get older, you find out that sometimes those people didn't have that good of a reputation and were just like, yeah, we just sat around and he just told us what to do all the time. It's just like, so we do discuss things, but usually if you listen well enough, you can get a grasp on what everybody's doing.
Yeah, and that was my comment is,
Yeah.
I might do something really wrong the first time in rehearsal. I might totally blow through a breath of his or take a breath when he doesn't. Then the next time, I don't.
It's a good name for an orchestra, Orchestra Superiorso.
It is, actually. You should talk to the AFM about that.
Yes, I should.
And so, yeah, you just listen really well. And then the first time, it doesn't have to be perfect. It usually is not. And then the second time, it's locked in. because we've all fixed our problems, because we all have problems, every single one of us.
And one thing, I always had this rule when I was younger, like I wouldn't say anything the first time. If you're running through something, if something's not right after 3 times, then you say something, that's fine. But how many times do you ever get to 3 times it not being right? And I would always get so annoyed when I'd be playing whatever ensemble it was from the time I was like 16 all the way to now. You'd mess up something the first time through and somebody would say, you know, don't do that. I mean, one of our grad assistants came to me, was complaining about some community group he was playing in, where they said, we don't miss notes here. Well, guess what? We miss notes all the time. So apparently I didn't realize that the freebie orchestra in town never missed any notes, because I want to play in that group. So, you know, it's like, it's really funny. People get so up in their own stuff. So, but anyways, we probably should wrap it up.
You can come ask questions after.
Thank you very much.
Do we have just time restraints have to go? Thank you.
I didn't realize how quick time goes.